Dr. Stroy, I want to thank you for coming on the show to share your story with our listeners and our viewers. Could you briefly tell us what's going on in your life and your K-12 career right now?
Yes, Dr. Williams, once again, thank you for this opportunity just to be a part of your broadcast. I'm truly grateful and honored that you would reach out to me and just offer this opportunity. What's going on in my life, personal and professionally? I start professionally. I'm currently serving as a chief of student services in a school district here in the Dallas, Texas area. 18,000 kids, 22 campuses. I oversee health services, all things safety and security, counseling services as well. Professionally, I'm aspiring to move to the next level. Ultimately, at some point, to become a superintendent is my ultimate goal. But right now, I'm grateful for where I am and where I'm serving. In my personal life, my wife and I, she's an educator as well. We'll be celebrating 30 years of marriage this year. Our kids and our grandkids are healthy and they're doing well. So things are going extremely well in the Stroy household and in my profession. That's going to catapult me and prepare me for that next phase in my professional life. I'm also part of a fraternity. So we have things going on in regards to mentorship and our educational programs and helping students and raising funds to provide scholarships. So active in the community, man. Serve on the Planning and Zoning Commission here in my little town and serve as the chairperson of comprehensive planning. So I'm involved, man. I'm involved quite a bit, but I enjoy every aspect of it, whether it's community involvement, whether it's educational work or just spending time with my family. It has been truly a blessing to me and to all that I've had this opportunity to encounter and work with.
That's awesome. So, you brought up frat, so I got to know. Okay, what fraternity are you a part of?
Hey, I'm a member of Alpha, man. Alpha Phi Alpha fraternity.
A5A in the house.
A5. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
That's what's
Yes,
up.
sir.
That's so cool. Like you know what? I never pledged, and even to this day, like I regret it, to be honest with you. So
Yeah.
we might have to talk off camera. I might have to join a grad chapter up here in Seattle, man, because
Hey, that's what I did, brother. I joined a grad chapter out here
okay.
and truly loved it. Yeah. For me, if I can go back a little bit, I've shared with some. With many, something I aspired to do as well. And but I had responsibilities in college. I played football. I had children. Was married. So when you have responsibilities, some of those other things are just on your peripheral. And hopefully at some point you can get back to them. And had that opportunity to pursue something that I really wanted to do. And I've enjoyed it, man. It's been a great time, great brotherhood, great work. If I can plug real quick, my chapter here in Arlington, Nu Pi Lambda chapter was just recently named the chapter of the year.
Wow.
In the state of Texas, just for the work that we've done in our community and uplifting and supporting the efforts there in Arlington.
No, that's awesome. So, oh man, you've given me hope. Like I just knew you were going to tell me about your time in college in a Pratt. So that's good. So I mean, it's really an open pathway to do it as an adult.
Most definitely.
Okay, well that's good to know. We got to talk off camera about that.
Yes, sir.
No, but that's good. And then you also mentioned that your wife is in education. Like, what does she actually do herself?
Yeah, my wife, she took the non-traditional route in education. She started out in corporate America working in the HR field.
Okay.
And had an opportunity to transition from corporate into public education. And I would say probably the past 10 to 12 years or so, she's been in public education in the HR field. And she's done everything from staffing, compensation, and benefits. She currently serves as the chief of HR for a charter program here in Texas.
That's awesome. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. So I have a lot of questions for you. I mean, I think the one thing that every educator has in common here in the United States, and for that matter, the world, is that we've all been dealing with this worldwide pandemic. How has that affected not only your work, but also your family?
Yeah, it has truly impacted, I would say, not just my work, but as you mentioned, as educators here all across this world is been impactful, because here in the United States, we had to shift real quick.
Yeah.
We had to shift everything that we know about educating kids and providing instruction and learning from a face-to-face platform for a while to a virtual platform.
Yeah.
And then transitioning our students back. So after a year being home, and in Texas, we really didn't close down. I mean, the spring of 2020, March of 2020, definitely we went totally virtual. But by August, we had kids back in the building. So it's trying to navigate the beginning portions of this pandemic and what all the requirements that we had to ensure that that were in place to make certain that our staff and students were safe. And then for those who may have contacted the virus, how do we address the situation? And really relying on our health services departments and our legislators to provide guidance in regards to how do we address it, as well as continuing to keep our campuses open and educating our kids. So it was a lot of learning while you're doing the work. Having to make certain that contact tracing was taking place when there was a positive case on campus.
Yeah.
Quarantine, making sure our parents are well aware of the criteria to quarantine their student and staff, as well as staff became infected with the virus, making certain that they understand the quarantining and isolation rules. And then if you were close contact, you had to quarantine. So it was a lot. It was really a lot. I really have to applaud our health services workers. They did a great job with making certain that our staff and our students were as safe as possible, but then adhering to all of our all the criteria that we received from the health services department. So we were able to navigate through it. Some days we had high cases that were positive that we had to address and communicate with our family and communities in regards to those positive cases that were on our campuses. But as I stated, everybody came together: health services, campus administrators, district level staff, parents, community members. So it was really a team effort to try to navigate through it, but we were successful in doing so and maintaining some form of education and learning for our kids.
That's awesome. So approximately how many students are in your school district and how many schools?
Yeah, so 18,000 students, 22 campuses in the district that I'm in now, 16 elementary, 6 secondary campuses. So we had quite a work. Some days we wondered whether we could keep a campus open because of the number of positive cases that were submitted on any particular day or any given week. But we were able to keep all of our campuses open, didn't have to close any of our campuses. Parents had the option of virtual or in person. And then on our secondary campus, we had a hybrid model in which on certain days, certain kids came to in person and while others were virtual. So we had to do that hybrid model to decrease the number of students that were on a campus on any particular day. So the pandemic was definitely a test for all of us. But as I mentioned, we were able to navigate through it. From a personal perspective, my wife and our family, we were fortunate enough. We did have a family member who contracted the virus, but they were able to get well and go through the quarantining isolation process and was eventually negative once they were retested. But fortunately, I haven't contracted it. My wife haven't contracted it. And we are grateful to know that we've been healthy through this pandemic.
No, that's really good. Yeah, unfortunately, me and my entire family contracted it. And actually, my son, who was in middle school, he was the first one to contract it. And I have a daughter as well. And, she was the last one to contract it. But between him catching it, then my wife caught it, and she probably had the worst case of it. And then myself, and then my daughter. But yeah, fortunately, thank God, we had all been vaccinated. My wife and I had been boosted, and we were able to come through it without, any real lingering side effects. So yeah, thank you for sharing that. And I'm just grateful. Like, I mean, I know that sometimes, President Trump gets a lot of bad press, and maybe some of it deservedly, but, I think the one thing he has to be given credit for was Operation Warp Speed and, getting, these vaccinations done by the various pharmaceutical companies done as quickly as possible. And I really believe that that saved a lot of lives because, I mean, we contracted, the virus probably 3 months ago. But if we had contracted it in the beginning, who knows? There was no vaccine in the beginning. And so,
Right.
a lot of people, that's why so many people died in the early stages of this. So very grateful for that. And I'm glad that your family didn't have to experience that.
Yeah, yeah, we were fortunate as well, like as you mentioned, grateful.
Yeah.
Also, so I tell my wife, and I shouldn't kid this way. I said I probably had it, but I was asymptomatic and didn't know, right?
No, I agree. I really agree, Doc. I think a lot of people probably had it, and they're saying now there's some stats that are coming out saying that seems like 75% of all children have actually had it. So I do feel like, there's definitely been herd immunity with it. And
Yeah,
I'm just grateful that we're getting back to some sense of normalcy, whatever that means now. You know what I mean?
right, right. Yeah, you're right. You're right.
So I have another question for you, Doc. This is a two-part question. What do you like most about your current role in K-12 education? And what do you like least about your current role in K-12 education?
Wow, that's a great question. I have to say, without a doubt, what I love the most is just interacting and impacting the lives of kids, right? So that's, when we talk about K-12 and individuals who are in the educational field, we always say we're not in it for the money. And that's so true.
Sure.
But impacting the lives of kids, really having an opportunity to be there for them, to be a support, to be a role model for them, and then to see them grow and blossom into what they desire to be. It's interesting. I have several young men that I still keep in contact with, that I've had an opportunity at some point along my profession to coach them or engage with them, mentor them, and just to hear them and follow up. So specifically on yesterday, I had lunch with a young man, and he and I were laughing because I met him 9 years ago. He was an 8th grade student.
Wow.
And I started mentoring him through Big Brothers Big Sisters. I think at the time I was a middle school principal. He was in the 8th grade, and started mentoring him. So we've kept in contact over the past 9 years. He's 22 now.
Okay.
But we still talk. We still talk and we text. So I text him, say, hey, what you doing Saturday morning, 9 o'clock? Let's go get some breakfast. So we went and had breakfast yesterday just to catch up. He's doing well. He's thriving. What comes to mind, when I first started in the profession, I was a teacher and an athletic coach, football coach.
Okay.
And social media has allowed us to keep in contact with individuals. Sure. We haven't been able to do so. So one of my former players, we got in contact with each other and through social media, and we met up and we were laughing. About a few weeks ago, we were laughing. I was like, man, you're about to be 40. Because when I was coaching and teaching them, I mean, I was young in the profession. I think I was probably 23, 24, my first few years in the profession. And they were 16, 17. Like, man, you're not, I'm not as old as I think I am, because you guys are right here with me. He's 40, I'm 47. But those opportunities just to catch up with kids and see how they're doing, and to know you've had an impact on their lives, and that in some way that you help shape them and mold them. And we share stories and things of that nature in regards to our relationship over the years. And especially when they were either in my classroom or I coached them on the athletic field or just mentored them. That's the exciting part.
It is.
Just knowing that each and every day, and this is what I share with educators, just knowing each and every day when you wake up and your feet hit the ground, you have an opportunity to change the trajectory of a student's life.
Absolutely.
So you have to take each moment in that mindset, or at least I do. Whose life can I change today? How can my actions help some other person, student, or even staff? Sometimes, especially when you move into administration, even as a teacher, you can impact the lives of your staff. So I just love the relationships. I love having an influence and impact in a positive way on the lives of individuals, and knowing that this platform, this profession has allowed me to do so. I would say what I dislike the past 2 years, I've really disliked in regards to the things that educators had to go through and had to experience. We talked about the pandemic. That was a difficult year and a half. or so. And now we're dealing with the political pushback, especially here in Texas, a lot of political pushback to where our teachers and educators have been caught in the middle of this battle with politicians, pursuing re-election or pursuing an election, and have thrust a lot of the negativity into the educational realm, dealing with, protests at board meetings in regards to masks and vaccines. Now it's CRT, it's library books. Yeah. So here we're dealing with a lot of that in Texas, and our legislators have passed bills banning CRT. They don't know what CRT is, but they're going to ban it. And so we have a lot of pushback. We have a lot of things in the 22 years prior to, in my experience, and for some, a lot longer. We've never had to deal with the battle that we've been thrust into, and it gets tiring. It gets frustrating at times. But as long as we keep our focus on kids and their well-being, we'll get through this just like we've gotten through everything else. So that, I must say, those are the last 2 years. I've truly disliked some of the things that I've seen and what educators have had to go through. As you know, the Great Resignation is occurring all across the United States, where educators are leaving the profession based upon what we've experienced the past 2 years, specifically this last school year, and that's disheartening, because we're losing a lot of great educators based upon what's occurring in our nation and the current climate, and how it's really having a negative impact on educators all across the nation.
Yeah, you're right. And that's a good segue into my next question, because I really feel like, our K-12 profession gets a bad rap. So why do you believe that K-12 education is such a noble profession?
I think it goes back to what I stated a moment ago in regards to why I love it so. It's a noble profession because you and I both know, and educators both know, you can't have any other profession without educators, right?
Sure.
There's no doctors, there's no lawyers, there's no scientists, there's no dentists. You name a profession, there's not one that the individuals who serve in those professions had to be educated at some point of their life. So it's a noble profession because educators have a hand and influence in every profession out there. And that's why I love it so, because we have the capability of shaping the world, and we do have that capability of shaping the world and shaping our future by the influence and impact that we have on the lives of young students who ultimately can pursue higher education if that's their choice, or some sort of career field or technical field, knowing that it started in K-12. All of that started in K-12. It started in somebody's classroom, and that teacher inspired and opened a child's mind to see beyond their current circumstances or situations and environments, and allow them to dream and know that, hey, I can go and do this, or I can, whatever my heart's desire, I can pursue it as well. So that's why I believe it's the noblest profession, because of the impact that we have on the lives of individuals, and as well as the impact we have on every profession known to man.
No, you're so right. And, I know personally that I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for, obviously my mom, but, when I think about the teachers that had such an impact on my life, and, some of the coaches that I, played football and basketball under, and even some of the administrators that I had, like, I know that we wouldn't even be having this conversation with me as Dr. Williams, or as you as Dr. Stroy, right? Like, we wouldn't be here in the, profession that we are, at the level that we are, if it wasn't for, somebody pouring into us when we were at that impressionable age from 5 to 17, 18 years of age. So thank you for sharing that.
Oh, most definitely. Most definitely.
So I have another question for you, Doc. Like, what are your short and long-term goals? You're right now, you're a district level administrator. It seems like throughout your career, you've been at every level. You've been a teacher, you've been a coach, you've been an AP, you've been a principal. Now you're a district level administrator. What are your short and long-term goals right now as a K-12 educator?
Yeah, I would say definitely I have aspirations to serve as a superintendent of a district. So I would say that's a long-term goal
Excellent.
that I have and I'm currently pursuing. Short term, I want to continue to grow in the role that I'm serving in. I want to become better. I want to become more impactful, more influential. How do we reform the educational system? So my oath as becoming a superintendent, I'll share this with you. So I started out as definitely a classroom teacher and athletics coach, teaching middle school math. And I've always wanted to see how we can reform and systems, because from a systemic perspective, unless we're making changes at that level, we very seldom will we see an impactful change of what's going on our district. So my desire in becoming a superintendent and throughout this profession, every role that I've served has allowed me to be a little bit more influential in impacting systems. And I think as a superintendent, you have the opportunity to do so for the betterment of students, definitely collaborating with all of your stakeholders, from families to teachers, in order to make those necessary changes as to what we see is best for kids. So long term, I want to become a superintendent. Short term, I just want to become better at what I'm doing. Learning as much as I possibly can, reading as much as I possibly can, engaging in professional developments and networking with others such as yourself,
Yeah.
Who could provide insight and input, because we're all in this together.
100%.
Everybody has their own strengths that they're good at, and it's important for us to share our experiences so that we can all grow together. So as I mentioned, short term, keep growing, keep moving. Long term, serve as a superintendent.
Awesome. I have no doubt, Doc, you're going to get there. So yeah, keep striving. Thank you so
I
much.
appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you.
I would have to believe your job, though, is pretty demanding, working at a district level, in the position that you're in, 18,000 students, 22 plus schools there. How do you maintain your work-life balance as a K-12 leader?
Yeah, it really is. It gets demanding. It gets time consuming. There's a lot to be done early morning, late evenings. But what I believe is, and it may be different than most, I don't think there is a work-life balance, right? Because when we talk about balance, we're talking about 50-50. And some days I can't balance everything that I do. I believe more in prioritizing, right? So because there's going to be, I believe in work-life prioritizing, because there'll be times where I have to spend more time at work and late evenings at work, and my family, I'm away from them for a while. And then there's times in which I can prioritize more of my efforts and my time to my family. And then there's community involvement. So it's really prioritizing, in my opinion, to know when you should turn things off. Yeah. And when you devote more attention to other things as a part of my life and other individuals' life, and when there's time to pick things up. So I and my wife, she understands as well, because she's pretty busy. So we're all prioritizing everything that we do to make certain that we don't drop the ball anywhere. Definitely, we want to be effective and efficient in our work, but we also want to be effective and efficient in our home lives, and then community involvements as well. So I believe more of prioritizing, knowing when it's time to put something down and focus more of my attention and efforts to other things, and vice versa, to ensure that I'm at least providing each and every entity that I'm involved in my time and my efforts.
No, that's great. Yeah. You know what? That might be a book, Doc. You might need to write a book. Work-life priorities, not work-life balance. Wow.
Man, it's tough. It's tough to try to provide everything the same amount of attention and time. So I just recognize that, hey, I can't do it. I'm not Superman. But what I can do is know when it's time to prioritize, know when it's time I got to turn this off. I got to put the cell phone down. I can't pick it up, and I got to spend some time watching TV with my wife and kids, or if that's what's needed at the time. And then when we can agree that, hey, I got to go and do some work or community involvement. So that's the way that we've been able to function over the years, is just prioritizing our time to make sure that everything receives the attention that it needs when it's needed.
That's good. I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that. Doc, if you had to do it all over again, would you still have made the decision to work as a K-12 educator and leader?
So here's how I came into this profession.
Okay.
I went to school to be an engineer.
Wow. Okay.
I went to school to be a civil engineer. I played football in college. Started that career path, on becoming an engineer. But I tell people, God made me an educator.
Wow.
Although that was my initial pursuit, somewhere down the line, I changed my major and went into education, and I wouldn't change anything at all. I really wouldn't. These have been the most impactful and influential years of my life serving in K-12. As I mentioned, what other platform that you can work in, or what other profession you can work in that have a daily impact with changing lives of people. So I would not change anything at all. I would not change my career path and the opportunities that I've had, because in doing so, would I be the person that I am today? Right. So if I changed anything, would I be the person that I am today? And more than likely, I'd have some different nuances and things that I've encountered. But no, I love what I do. I'm grateful to the fact that I had the wherewithal to know that although I thought I was going to be an educator, although I thought I was going to be an engineer, forgive me, my path and my profession was to be in education and impacting the lives of kids. So I wouldn't change anything. I enjoy it. I have fun. All of the relationships that I've formed over the years, and it has been truly delightful to see how students, as I mentioned earlier, students that I've either taught or coached or mentored, come back later in life and share their experiences with me. And, they're being impactful and influential in their professional choices as well. And they have families and they're raising them, and they're doing truly an amazing job. But just know I've had a little bit of impact in that individual's life is fulfilling, and it's very exciting.
Right. You can't put a price tag on that. And those moments, and when you see former students, they're priceless, literally priceless. So I can definitely, identify with that the same way that you just shared that. And also we have a similarity in that, I was a pre-law major. I was accepted in a law school, actually accepted right there in Dallas, SMU. I was on my way to SMU Law School, and I had been accepted in several law schools, but I had decided on SMU, and really thought that was the path that I was going in. But, there's an old saying, if you want to make God smile, tell him your plans, because he might have other plans.
Exactly.
Right. Right. So he definitely had more plans, or had different plans for me. And I've been doing this since 1994, and I just wouldn't change it. I guess I'm still in deferred status, as a future law student, but, God had other plans, and those relationships that you build with young people are priceless. And when they become adults and they talk about how you poured into their lives, you can't put a price tag on that. So definitely thank you for sharing that, because that's one of the beauties of our profession. And the great thing about it is, and it's the same thing with me, like, even though you had planned on becoming an engineer, I'm sure you've had some students that have become engineers, and you probably had a hand in that, right?
Most definitely.
Yeah.
And I've had some to become educators. One just came to mind. Yeah, my first year teaching, young man, and we could still connect now. He still calls me coach.
Oh yeah,
coach.
For sure.
I remember class, this and the other. But he's an educator. He's an administrator here in DFW, and anytime we connect, he's like, Coach, I'm doing this because the way in which you taught us and how you treated us and inspired us. So, man, it's amazing. It puts a smile on your face knowing that, and it just warms your heart knowing that you just have some role in where our kids go and what they ultimately end up doing.
Yeah, it's funny you said that. I'm just thinking about what you said. Like, when I think about my career, like, depending on where you knew me, when you knew me, I could be any number of things, right? I might be Mr. Williams. I might be Coach Williams. I might be AP Williams. I might be Principal Williams. I might be Dr. Williams, right? It just depends on where you met me and, what I was doing when you met me, or when, I had that impact on your life. And it sounds like it's the same with you.
It is, and that specific student I've heard this from quite a few. For some, and I know for him, I was his first African American male teacher,
Wow.
and this was an 8th grader.
Okay.
And so we have those conversations as well as to, Coach, you were my first black male teacher I've ever had, and
wow.
just being able, representation, as we all know, is important for every student.
For sure.
So just serving that role for him and for so many others. To see, a black man in the classroom in a professional setting and having an impact on kids. So he and I have that conversation quite often. Every time he sees me, Coach, you remember you my first black male teacher? I went home and told my mama my math teacher is a black man.
That's awesome. That is awesome.
It's what he tells me. He tells me quite often. But I'm just grateful to know that, and as we've shared throughout this conversation, it's just the impact that we've all had on kids. So
100%. So, Doc, I want to thank you for coming on the show. But before you leave, could you please give the K-12 educators around the world that are looking at you right now some parting words of wisdom? Tell us how we can connect with you, and then we'll say goodbye.
Wonderful. To any and all K-12 educators who are listening to this recording, this podcast, I would just say you are to be applauded for the work that you've done. I know that we've experienced some difficult times as of late, but as long as we keep our focus and our attention on what's important, which is our students, and all the distractions, we leave them in the peripheral, understanding that you are important, you're influential, you're making a difference, even though it gets difficult sometimes. Don't quit, because our kids need us. Families need us, because we serve in multiple hats. We wear multiple hats, whether it's providing kids with the basic necessities that they need in order to learn in the classroom, providing resources to parents and families who may be in need. You are important. You are loved, and you are making a difference in the lives of students and families all across this nation. So hold tight. This is just a small little hiccup that we're experiencing right now. Things will get better. And as I stated, that you are making a difference. I'm on all social platforms, Facebook, Instagram. I am on Twitter. I'm even on TikTok now. They be on everything when you're dealing with kids to see what's going
100%,
on.
Yeah.
So I don't even know my handle. Just search for Kelvin Stroy. You'll find me or my son. He's a junior.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I would appreciate. I definitely love connecting on social media.
Sure.
Twitter is one that I use quite often from a professional standpoint. But like I said, I'm on Facebook, I'm on Twitter, I'm on Instagram, I'm on TikTok as well. Either as Doc Stroy or Doc Dr. Stroy Senior. But search me, look me up, and definitely let's connect. And I appreciate you, Dr. William, for inviting me on and allowing me an opportunity to share my experiences as well.
Oh, we are so grateful to you. Like, I really appreciate you, Doc. And I got one favor to ask you, Dr. Stroy. And I just want to ask you that when, not if, but when you become a school superintendent, will you come back on the show?
Oh, most definitely, without a doubt. I'll definitely make sure that you are informed when that happens, and you can invite me back on. We'll get something scheduled.
All right. Thank you so much again, Dr. Stroy, and we wish you all the best in your career. Thank you so much.
You too, Dr. Williams. Thank you as well.
All right.